All right, and we're back with the program. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's time. It's that time once again. She's back for her monthly update right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what she's doing today at the TVRatingsGuide.com, plus also her great show, Jessica Show, which is available everywhere you get your podcasts. It is my good friend. It is Miss Jessica Boggs. And Jessica, I want to focus today on something a little bit different. I know there's a little bit of a TV update that you're going to give the viewers out there on some shows, but it kind of just struck me the other day because CBS announced that its scripted shows, for the most part, will start trickling out in November. And
Correct.
I know ABC has some shows trickling out already. And I know Fox and Fox and NBC have their own plans and whatnot. But there's an interesting trend, and I think really the Hollywood Reporter article that I caught last week really put it out to light. It's the shows that are being unrenewed for right now. I mean, shows that were actually renewed were actually given the go ahead. Some of which were on the borderline, some of which were just too expensive to keep on the slate, so they're getting unrenewed. And these are shows that at the end of their last seasons that they were given the renewal for. Some of them had to wait a little bit longer than others, but they were given the go ahead. But then coronavirus hit, and because of that, and because of the costs that are now becoming increasingly involved, even though television viewing, streaming viewing is in the right direction, especially if you're in the streaming industry, because the streaming industry obviously is growing by leaps and bounds. We're seeing shows both on broadcast, cable, and the streaming all getting hurt
Yes.
by it. And I want to go ahead and just ask, when you see shows like Becoming a God in Central Florida for Showtime, when you see Netflix's Glow, The Society, and I Am Not Okay with This, at True TV's I'm Sorry, USA's network, the USA Network had a Evil miniseries that was going to go on, and ABC Stumptown, which, as you know, hurt me greatly, and it was just very devastated to find out that that show will not get a second season unless it gets picked up somewhere else. You're really seeing the effects of what the coronavirus is doing, even for broadcast cable and especially streaming viewing, which to me is the biggest surprise.
I mean, I saw this article this morning. Don't get me wrong, but apparently it's in the age of COVID. It seems like more shows that are behind on production orders are getting their renewals reversed by networks. Basically, the Southland treatment of sorts. And so,
It
according
seems
to,
like it.
so yeah, because of the coronavirus, the budget has gone up on the scripted end of things when it comes to like PPE use. That added around 6 to 7 million on the low end for personal protective equipment, for example.
Just
And
precautions in general, correct?
yeah, and in addition, there were executive shakeups at Warner Media as well, with the country remaining closed. And so Kevin Riley and Bob Greenblatt are no longer at Warner Media.
And then one of the heads of Netflix also left as well for her own reasons, personal reasons. Just decided to go out into a new venture. Of course, you know, with the Netflix cash she probably has and the shares she has, she could pretty much do anything that she wants. So, yeah, there's a lot of shakeups. And then Disney, what do you make of this? Is refocusing its entire way of doing things because of what's going on in the moment and shaping up its entire way of doing things in order to structure around the streaming market quite a bit more.
Well, yeah, it seems like with revenues trending downward in general, and with movie theaters in key parts of the country remaining closed. And so you have regime changes cleaning house and making marks of their own. apparently the executive shakeup of Warner Media partially contributed to the axing of I'm Sorry from True TV.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. And like I was saying, excuse me. And like I was saying before, this has led to a lot of shows, very surprising amount of shows being unrenewed after they were given the clearance to go ahead. Stumptown among them. And it just seems like any show that's on the borderline is got to be nervous. But they've got to be nervous as far as their future is concerned, because, like you said, several $1,000,000 that these studios will have to pay in either protect, like you said, PPE, or staff that's on duty now, either testing or being on there as far as to make sure the precautions are met. You know, there are new people there on the set that have been hired just to go ahead and make sure everything is up to, you know, safety standards. So that's a larger and larger cost, which, like I said before, some borderline shows couldn't match up with.
Well, yeah, and according to the article, it said Stumptown apparently was planned to be on the network's fall schedule, and they canceled it because episodes which would have not been ready until at least April, which meant the show, which underwent creative changes and showrunner changes, would have aired in summer, which apparently wasn't a good fit for a show with a sizable price tag already, which increased and with the PPEs and those extra precautions, that increased its price tag. And then ABC,
it's not a show you can, like you said, with the cost involved, it's not a show that you can put out in summer. It's something that you would have to go ahead and put out in fall to maximize any kind of performance that it could have.
Yeah, even though Stumptown was produced in-house.
That's a shame. That's a shame for me, because I was a big fan of the show. I thought it was really something that had a lot of promise. But we seemingly do that every year when it comes to one of my shows. That always seems to get the axe. Seems like every year we're talking about another Gerald show that he likes. So I think I might be refrained from saying I like a show in the future, because that might be the kiss of death right there for you. So don't. I will try to refrain from my love for any of these shows that are on the cut line or right there on the border, because you know what, with Deadly Class, Stumptown, Timeless, the list
that lasted 3 seasons.
Yeah, well, still, it just, I can't like the show, it looks like. So I will go ahead and refrain from that. But again, the serious nature of these shows getting unrenewed, it's something that we might even see extended even more going forward, because of the fact that these costs, the skyrocketing costs of these making these shows, is in some cases outweighing the actual performance that it actually has.
Yeah, USA Network, especially with Evil, the miniseries, it became the first to scrap a show because of the pandemic in July, when the window in which one of the actors from This Is Us would have filmed Evil closed.
Milo Ventimiglia.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Scheduling
Great
issue.
actor.
Yeah, and then scheduling issues were also largely to blame for the cancellations of The Society and On Becoming a God in South Florida.
Which is very sad to see. But again, you know, it's just something that we're going to have to realize and deal with going forward, that the networks out there are going to prioritize the shows that work very well with them, that do obviously get a return as far as substantial viewership. Those that are not seeing as much, or maybe like those cult hits that you and I have pointed out in the past, or shows that have a nice following but don't have a large following, those shows are going to be nervous now, because that could happen to them.
Yeah, recently we did have an article on the TV ratings guide called like "A Lousy Ending Glow."
Yes. That was a show that was critically hailed, something that had its nice fan base, but obviously for scheduling and cost reasons, it seemed like it was too much for Netflix to handle.
Yeah, Glow was in the process of filming episode 2 of its fourth and final season when production was shut down. Apparently, mitigating health risks understood, this left season 3's bittersweet finale as the underwhelming end.
It's a shame because I know with that a lot of the concern was the physical nature of the show, and I think that was as far as a kind of concern of the producers and Netflix involved as far as keeping that show running. But again, another critically hailed show that had a nice following, unfortunately met its end. If it had garnered the ratings, let's say, of the Umbrella Academy, which Nielsen reported, and also I'm sure you guys took a hint on as well, that it was the number one show on Netflix for August, and then let's say it had those kind of ratings, I think you would have seen that show still stay on the air and continue production. I think it was a matter of this: how much do you want to support a show like that?
Well, yeah, and it's like mostly to do with cost and a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
In addition.
Well, again, I have Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. You got to check out what she's doing today at the TVRatingsGuide.com. And of course, her show, Jessica's Show, available wherever you get your podcasts. So I turn the floor over to you before we head on out. What's going on? Any other TV updates? I mentioned that CBS is slowly, in the month of November, going to start creeping out some of its scripted programming. And there's always other news going on in the world of television, so I'll turn it over to you before we head on out.
So yeah, like recent ratings apparently were hit and miss on all the broadcast networks.
I know the ratings for the NBA were down. I also know that ratings for baseball are down. I think football is down as well, if I'm not mistaken.
And down a little bit, but not 100%. Apparently, The Masked Singer is down about 17% from the last season.
So it
but
seems
it's still like the top-rated show on Fox at the moment. But yet the lowest rated shows were LA's Finest, Filthy Rich, and Next.
Well, it looks like the LA's Finest and also the low ratings, unfortunately, for season one, the season one debut of Star Trek Discovery on CBS. I know those got minuscule ratings as well. It's just a shame that these shows on streaming networks that were brought over specifically as time filler couldn't find a niche with, couldn't find a new audience. It's a shame, especially in Star Trek Discovery's case. Was very disappointed to hear about the lack of ratings for that. But before we head on out, I want to ask you this. When it comes to what we'll be seeing in the future, I think that the lower ratings from a broadcast standpoint, even though more people are at home and available to watch TV, I think the power of streaming is coming more and more into play.
I agree. And you get the binge format and stuff versus like watching it live.
Well, you don't get to binge as much unless you're watching previous seasons, because the fact that most are limited on production. So like, for instance, The Boys, people got angry because it wasn't brought out all at once like the previous season. It was brought out week to week. And so now you're seeing these streaming networks, they're deviating away from what they were doing before, because they got people sucked in based off of, okay, we're going to just pop a season right there on you. Now, because of what's going on with COVID and limited production and obviously limited content that they're being able to show, they're going ahead and doing it the old-fashioned way, putting it out on a week-by-week basis.
Yes, and not sure how that's going to work out, though. Whereas,
I'll go ahead.
Out of all the broadcast networks, like this, NBC's new comedy Connecting, I just got to say this. When Supernatural episode of the final season of Supernatural beats a debut episode of a comedy, you know something is up.
Something is up indeed, but you know,
You know
again,
it's bad.
yeah, that's bad. That's bad. And you and I have talked about the CW at length about the lack of success they had, and that's something next month we can talk about. I want to talk to you about some of these networks that are out there that are consistently garnering low ratings. I want you to go ahead and put on your producer's hat, or I want you to go ahead and put on your studio executive's hat coming up for next month. And I want you to go ahead and see if there were any networks around there, whether it's broadcast, streaming, cable. I'm going to let you choose 5. I'm going to let you choose 5 networks to go ahead and get the axe. All right. Since, you at the TVRatingsGuide.com, you and the crew always deal with shows that are being canceled. Let's go ahead and see if we can cancel 5 networks, and we're going to give our reasons why. So how about doing that? Okay, put on your studio executive's hat for next month in November, and we'll go ahead and just give our thoughts on 5 networks which are really not doing too much in the way of business right now, and maybe be better off doing something else. How's that sound?
Oh yeah, that sounds good. Though when we were live streaming.
Yes. So Miss Studio Executive and myself right here, we're going to go ahead and see what we can do to pick out 5 networks on next month's TV update. But before we head on out, I want you to go ahead, my friend, and give us an update on what you're doing at the TVRatingsGuide.com, Jessica's show, or whatever else you want to promote, because the floor is now yours, my friend. What's going on in your world?
Well, the TV Ratings Guide is starting our fall slate of originals, including the 4th season of Network. And we're also gearing up on renew cancel updates. We did have the latest Fox renew cancel update at the moment. And we do have some shows that are likely getting the axe too, even though LA's Finest was already renewed, of course.
Really?
Apparently for a season 2, though, even though season 2 already aired, they're just airing season 1 on Fox.
So it got renewed by Fox, correct? Not by its own parent streaming outlet.
Apparently that's what it's. Apparently, that's what it says.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and let's look up that right now. LA's Finest.
Will Fox license season 2, or will one season be the end of this show's network exposure?
Okay. All right. Well, that's something very interesting there. So we'll see what the future holds.
The series has already been renewed by Spectrum for a 2nd season, and those episodes were already released on demand.
Okay. Well, then I'm not surprised if it was approved by Spectrum, because obviously it's one of the biggest shows that they have. But to see it given another life on Fox is quite surprising. So, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the moment, it hasn't been renewed by Fox, though, but it's showing a renewed tag on TV series finale, though.
Yeah,
but it
Spectrum.
Depends. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's been that show, and I think Spectrum. Yeah, I think that, and what is it? No, that's different. That's the Audience Network. I'm thinking Mr. Mercedes, but I'm sorry. Well, all right then. You hear something new every day, but LA's Finest, being on the Spectrum channel, I believe that's probably their biggest show. So I can't blame them for going ahead and renewing it there. Just I would be surprised if Fox with the minuscule ratings would go ahead and continue it. But again, Jessica Boggs doing an outstanding job indeed. Every single month she's on the show. She's going to put her studio executive hat on for November. So will I. So we'll see which networks we're going to go ahead and cut next month in November, along with her TV update. It'll be a little bit more active because more shows will be out. She'll get a better gauge on which shows are going to be successful and which ones are going to be unrenewed, so to speak, coming up on our November TV update right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.